So what's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys, of course, a BLEACH latest episode number 4, and this video, of course, will be a little late because I actually just finished watching the episode myself. Very, very busy week, and a lot of drama, a lot of bullshit going on in the Griever lifestyle over in this direction. But we don't talk about this direction when we're talking about BLEACH. We sit here in the present, and we talk about the fact that Volume 56 is gone. We covered Volume 56. We're even starting a little bit of Volume 57 here in this episode. So I think the pacing is just fine. Once again, I think the pacing is absolutely wonderful. And this episode was the stealing of the bankais. Now, I think the animation was beautiful, especially for that Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi. And the beautiful petals and everything. And then, and as not stealing... It was, yeah. No, they did this correctly because we saw it in the manga. It's done well too, but the visuals here, they know they've got the budget, they've got the time, the animation, and so they're saying, nah. We're not going to get to see Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi for basically the rest of the season. We are going to definitely showcase this. We are going to make this gorgeous and beautiful, right? And they succeeded. It was absolutely awesome. A lot of the shots, just the color aesthetic. I like the color because you can really see the vibrantness. Like, everything's got this dull gray overlay over it. Have you noticed that? Particularly this episode. There's this dull gray overlay from, like, the pillars of blue, spirit reishi and all that stuff. And I like it. I really like it. I also note that unlike Volume 56, we don't see Hashwell talking to His Majesty. His Majesty does not appear above the sky, does not talk to Hashwell. He is not in this episode at all. So they're sort of changing that up, leaving him to be a bit more of a man of mystery, maybe fixing a little bit of an issue, like maybe he's already gone to see you-know-who, Chair-sama at his finest, perhaps. And then we get the battle. We get the talk between the four captains. Use their bankai. It's no good. Shunsui gets his eye popped out. I still think that was a cheap shot. I still think I'm like, really to this dude. But then again, Shunsui's always way too laid back and even admits like, I should really start taking this seriously. I'm gonna lose both my eyes. You know what I mean? So, all right. So, fine dandy there. So the four captains lose their bankai. Other captains are already in, they're already fighting and or heading to other individual fights. This first invasion is just so good, and this is only the start of it, right? We do jump back to with Akon like saying we need to contact Kurosaki Ichigo, and it's like, all right, so let's go talk to Kurosaki Ichigo, and gets to Urahara and blah, blah, blah. And that scene, basically, everything is pretty verbatim. There's no real big changes that I personally noticed from the manga. Some scenes switched around for pacing or for aesthetics. But line for line, scene for scene from the manga pretty much. I didn't notice anything hugely different. Maybe one or two extra little cuts or fights. Specific attacks and stuff like that, extending some fight scenes. Other than that, I didn't notice anything crazy, but that's okay because Volume 56 was solid. It didn't need, we don't want to overcompensate. You don't want to stuff the belly too full, right? Sort of idea. Otherwise, you feel bloated. At the same time, you don't want to be hungry when you're done the meal. You want to be satisfied. And I think that this episode did a fantastic job of doing that. Ichigo at the very end, of course, is caught in the prison. Urahara blames himself for this and everything. We see that Chad is incredibly injured. There's stuff. There's a lot of setup, and some people will argue that this is a setup episode. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the fact that, because when people say setup episode, they mean it's not as good or not as... When people use the term, this is a setup chapter or setup episode, it means they didn't actually really care for it. The chapter, the episode, the movie, the prequel, the what have you, regardless of the medium or the media. When people say that, it's their way of saying, I know a lot of people like this, but I didn't really give a shit, and can we just move on to the better parts? That's what when people say setup. They know that great shit is coming, good fights, good dialogue, good moments, but none of this was what they're interested in. They know it's necessary to get to those moments, but they don't want to say it's not good because they know people will go, well, how the hell are you going to get moments A through Z that are awesome if you don't do all this stuff first, right? So it's very ironic how people, use these terms and don't. Most times they use these terms and it's basically telling people who think the episode or whatever, the chapter or episode is 8 or 9 out of 10. These people are sitting there thinking it's a 3 or a 4, but they say, oh, well, I mean, it was okay. It was a setup episode. So what are you going to do? And people accept that like, yeah, I totally get it. It's like you two have totally different opinions and neither one of you are willing to admit it. Like either the people saying setup are like fooling the 8, 9 out of 10 people and the 8 out of 9, 10 people are just, how could you hate it? And they can't even fathom that someone would, say it. Or they both know that they're sort of bullshitting, using that term, and they're just accepting it. We don't want to fight. You know what I mean? Because I've never seen anybody call a setup. The same person that says this is a setup chapter, say it's a 10 out of 10 chapter. Never heard. You're never going to find someone arguing that this setup chapter is a 10 out of 10. This setup episode is a 10 out of 10. You won't find it. You know why? Because setup is actually a bit of an insult, not a compliment. And I just want to, pad the runtime of this review because honestly, it was just really good. I watched the whole episode. It was fire. It was great. I don't really have a whole lot to say. It copied the manga specifically. Normally there's some changes or something and there's nothing really other to say. I'm still really, really happy myself. But I did notice a lot of people using the term setup episode on Twitter and Reddit and Discord and stuff like that when referring to this episode. And I just thought I'd give you guys my thoughts on people who say setup don't actually like what they saw or read. They are just expecting what's to come to be good, but they don't think that this particular moment was good. That's the way I feel, or at the very least, maybe not good, but they think it's average. They don't think it's good. They don't think it's great. They might not think it's terrible or bad, but they don't really care for it either way. They're just like, At least that's the way I've always found it, and it's the way that I particularly use setup episodes. This, in spoiler alert for the One Piece community, so 3, 2, 1, the egghead stuff. Setup chapters, don't really care. 5, 6 out of 10s. Don't really care about Vegapunk. Don't really care about Egghead. Just don't. It's not for me. But I admit that when I say this is a setup chapter, I'm expecting some cool shit to happen. I am. But this particular chapter, I just didn't really care what happened. I'm not that interested. I will be, and I'm not saying it's bad or I dislike it. I'm just not that into it or interested compared to other parts of One Piece. Simple as that. So, that being said, I think I've padded the runtime there for this review. Plenty enough. So, hope you guys enjoyed my Movember. Anybody notice? My Movember review for BLEACH, 1,000 Year Blood War Arc, Episode 4. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Like, comment, and subscribe. As always, don't forget the fourth and most important thing on this 4th episode. To drink responsibly, as I always do. And we'll see you beautiful people back here once again, hopefully on time for episode 5. Looking forward to it. Know you guys are too. Have a good one. Bye-bye.